Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Wednesday, the 14th of February. Wonderful confluence of St. Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday. And as Ash Wednesday, the beginning of Lent, we beginning our journey toward the cross. And we looked forward to Good Friday with the cross as the culmination of what we're doing. And then the joy of Easter as the tomb is empty. And Paul, writing in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, which we read with McShane today, in verse 18 says, "The message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God." And I certainly have found that to be true, that for many people who are outside of the faith, you can talk about the cross and it doesn't make sense, that they just don't get it. Indeed, Paul continues a few verses later and he says, "Jews demand signs and Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God." And that is again perfectly true. For those he has called, for Christians, we look at the cross and we look at the resurrection, and it makes perfect sense. And we see in that instance we have the almost the fulcrum of history, all of the Old Testament from creation onwards, leading up to this point where Jesus steps into the world to deal with our sinfulness and the fallenness of humanity, and to open a way back into the presence of God, that we can stand before a holy God. And it all makes perfect sense. But to people outside of the faith, it probably just seems like nonsense. That's certainly what Paul says, foolishness. And for some people, a stumbling block. They just can't get past it. And that's it. And so as Christians, as we live out our faith, and as we share our faith, we've got to be praying that God will open the eyes of the people to see, open their ears. They will be able to hear, and give them the grace that they will be able to understand, that suddenly for them the penny will drop and Christ will become not a stumbling block or foolishness, but the message of the cross will suddenly become the power of God and the wisdom of God. And they will get it. And we can't persuade them. We can't convince them. There's no kind of teaching or anything we can do to force them to reach that point of view. It has to be the Spirit of God working in them. So pray for the people round about you, particularly during Lent, that as we are able to share, as we live it out, that the Spirit of God would work in them, granting them the ability to hear and to understand and to comprehend the wonder of the cross of Christ. Christ crucified, the wisdom of God and the power of God. Be blessed.